It's in the air. Hell's Kitchen has an itch. I've lived here all my life, and I can tell. I can feel when people are ready to scratch that itch. Scratch it by robbing, by fighting, by murdering. Daredevil's been gone, and anything goes. Today on the Comic Book Report, Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky, Vol.1 Hardcover. Stick around and check it out. Greetings all, my name is Dominic, and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today we're finally taking a look at the beginning of the incredible Chip Zdarsky Daredevil run. While we don't have any omnibuses for this run at the time of the recording, we do have these delightful oversized hardcover editions, and I cannot wait to review Volume 1 for all of you today. So why don't we get started? First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written by Chip Zdarsky and penciled primarily by Marco Checchetto. The issues in this volume were published by Marvel Comics beginning in 2019. The volume itself collects Daredevil, the 2019 series, issues 1 through 10. And finally, this oversized hardcover comes in at 232 pages. At this time, I'd like to issue a brief spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection, as well as commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first look at that oversized hardcover collection from Marvel Comics. Like I mentioned, this collects the first 10 issues of Chip Zdarsky's incredible run, and it's reproduced in nice, oversized, glossy print paper stock. At the time of this recording, we currently have 3 of these volumes released. I actually did a review on Volume 3 a few weeks ago, and I know they've solicited a Volume 4 in 2023. We'll see how many we get, as Chip Zdarsky is still currently writing Daredevil, and I'm not sure if we'll eventually see some omnibuses for this run. I'm sure we probably will. I really enjoy these oversized hardcover collections. While I do prefer the omnibus line, these oversized hardcovers are a real welcome treat for all of us collectors out there. I think especially those that maybe love the oversized format but don't love omnibuses. I know sometimes the price point or the general cumbersomeness of omnibuses can sometimes deter some people. I love them, but this is still a very welcome addition in my mind. Another facet I've really loved of these collections, of course, are the under the dust jacket artwork we've been getting with a lot of the Marvel hardcovers. This one included. I think the wraparound art on the actual hardcover book itself is just gorgeous. It's bonus art, and it's a real treat under an already beautiful dust jacket. At the time of this recording, I do believe this first volume is already out of print. Who knows if we'll get a reprint down the line, or if again we'll see omnibuses in the future. I know you can still find the trade paperbacks, or you can find these secondhand or on eBay, things like that. And as we go ahead and finish up the exterior work, I'll go ahead and start transitioning to a quick look at the binding you can expect from this hardcover collection. Let's see if I can get you a good view here. Overall, I think the binding is pretty solid. I think collections like this, there's sometimes a little bit of gutter loss that you just have to factor in. But of course, you can take a look throughout my review to see if it's up to your standard for what you expect from binding in a hardcover edition like this. I personally was thoroughly satisfied. And with that out of the way, we can go ahead and get started with the collection proper, and I cannot wait. Okay, and as we jump in, as far as context for this collection, the Chip Zdarsky run follows up the larger Charles Soule era on Daredevil. I don't believe I've really reviewed any of his collections yet on my channel. Maybe I should. I really enjoyed the Charles Soule run. I don't think it's one of my favorites, but I still really liked it. I know they came out with an omnibus maybe last year. I didn't pick that up. I have the trade paperbacks of all of that. Anyway, Chip Zdarsky is the next big writer on Daredevil, so after you finish the Charles Soule run, the only other thing I'd recommend between finishing that run and starting Chip Zdarsky is Jed McKay's Man Without Fear, The Death of Daredevil. This was kind of a little mini-series that takes place after Charles Soule's run and sort of before this Chip Zdarsky run. It has Matt Murdock, almost dead, clinging to life in a hospital after getting hit by a car. The whole series is really kind of a mind trip, and it goes into a lot of metaphysical and identity things with Daredevil Matt Murdock as he tries to cling to life and come back after this gruesome injury and accident between the truck and everything that happened at the end of the Charles Soule run of Daredevil. All that to say, when Matt Murdock, Daredevil, comes back in this Chip Zdarsky run, he's beaten up, he's not in his prime, he's been away for a while, and the city shows it, and he shows it in how he handles everything. He's not as well-oiled or finely tuned as normal, and that has grievous consequences throughout this volume, and those consequences echo into the rest of this Chip Zdarsky era of Daredevil. The defining feature of this early arc in the Chip Zdarsky Daredevil run is that a man is killed, and it looks like Daredevil killed him. Daredevil disputes this. He thinks it's some kind of ploy or trap caused by his enemies, and throughout the first run, he's trying to prove his innocence, see who's behind it, as well as trying to sharpen himself and get back on his feet as a costume vigilante after suffering just such harsh injuries. Because he's largely suspected of murder, and with the Kingpin in the mayoral seat of New York, he is hunted by the police. And at one point, a few issues into this book, we actually have him almost being apprehended by the cops before he's saved by none other than the Punisher himself. This is a really interesting dynamic, and one of the things that absolutely rooted me to the Zdarsky run within these first few issues, we have Frank Castle, the Punisher, sort of commiserating and congratulating Daredevil on crossing the line for the sake of New York and for the mission, and he basically is trying to share with him, like, okay, now we're both vigilantes who sometimes kill people for the sake of doing, air quotes, good for the city. Daredevil rejects this idea, not wanting to be like Frank Castle, not sure if he's done what's happened here. Anyway, it leads to some really interesting storytelling and some really striking visuals. At one point, we have a bandaged, beat-up Daredevil who still has his Daredevil mask on, but with a Punisher t-shirt out on the streets of New York. It's a really crazy couple issues, and the art is absolutely stunning. Well, the story arc comes to a head when Daredevil realizes that he did in fact accidentally kill this man. And from there, of course, Daredevil begins to unravel as a character as he kind of comes to terms with how he could actually use lethal force, even if inadvertently, on a villain like this. And it wasn't even a supervillain, it was more or less a petty criminal. So the guilt's really getting to him, and I know during Shadowlands he may or may not have gotten someone else, but hey, that's for another day. The point is, this is really Matt grappling with the first time that he might have killed someone, and it's because he wasn't sharp enough, he wasn't controlled enough, and that he made a mistake. We also have a haunting and incredibly just gravity-filled appearance of Spider-Man in this issue. Spider-Man shows up at Daredevil's house basically saying, hey, you're getting sloppy, and you're done. And honestly, it's one of my favorite Spider-Man appearances in recent memory. It's just dark and gritty and brooding, and we don't always see that aspect of Spider-Man. He's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's making jokes. But whenever we get that kind of grittier edge to Spider-Man, I think it can sometimes be really effective. And his appearance in Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil, especially the first couple appearances, are really great. We have an almost adversarial thing between the two of them when we know that Daredevil and Spider-Man have a long history of friendship. And frankly, that really nails home the divide of what Daredevil's actions have really done. He essentially gets called out and rebuked by a close friend, but also a colleague in the superhero business. And it really just has him kind of counting the cost of what's happened. So that's kind of the first story arc. I've left out a little bit, but I'll let you get a better grasp of it when you read for yourselves. The second story arc is, more of a setup story arc in my mind. It changes pencilers, and you can definitely notice a dip in the art quality overall. Still a fine art style, but it's not as gripping as the Checchetto art from that first arc. I know he kind of comes in and out of this Zdarsky run, but his portrayal of Daredevil is just one of my absolute favorites in the history of the character that I've read. But the art is still fine in the second arc. The second arc kind of preoccupies itself with Matt sort of getting close with some of these mafia mob kind of families, some gangsters in Hell's Kitchen, sort of starting a relationship and an affair with actually a married woman, which is not super cool. But Matt has kind of a checkered history with women in his life. Overall, this second story arc feels a little bit inconsequential, especially compared to the first arc on the book, but it's not too long after this that the story really begins to pick up again. The second half of this book, like I said, not quite as strong as the first half, but still pretty serviceable. It really still has a lot of character building and setup for future events. And the whole volume ends with Daredevil encountering Elektra, who basically wants to whip him back into shape and get his training back on so he can get primed again, because he's just getting sloppy and he still hasn't fully healed. And he's kind of becoming a little bit unraveled. So we have Elektra showing up here at the end of the collection, and it really sets up what's to come. Elektra becomes a much more important facet of the Zdarsky run moving forward, and this is just the first sampling of her character as depicted by Chip Zdarsky. And that's just kind of a bird's eye overview of kind of the plot and synopsis of this first hardcover collection. Like I said, the first half is stronger than the back half in my opinion, but it's certainly a great entry for this writer and this artist, especially Checchetto. He does an amazing job in that first arc. And you know what? I really was absolutely absorbed by this Zdarsky run. It was an immediate pre-order for volumes 2 and 3 of this collection, and I'm sure I'm going to be saving up for volume 4 shortly. As time has gone on, I really do respect Zdarsky's view of Daredevil and the voice he gives him, and just kind of how he flushes out this character. Daredevil is a favorite character of mine, actually my favorite superhero character. I've mentioned it before, but already I think Zdarsky's run is shaping up to be one of my absolute favorites. I'm always partial to the Brian Michael Bendis run on the character, the Frank Miller run. I really do like Mark Waid's run as well. At first I wasn't sold, but it really grew on me. Brubaker's run, Kevin Smith's run. There's been so many just incredible writers on Daredevil for over the last 20 years, and Zdarsky's really rising on that list for me as just one of the absolute best. If you haven't checked out this run, I highly recommend it. Like I said, I think this hardcover's out of print, but you can still find some of the trade paperbacks or maybe find this in secondary markets. And hopefully we'll get an omnibus or two. A couple more notable things about this collection in this era of Daredevil. One of the things I like is that this still occurs under Mayor Fisk's leadership in New York. That was set up during the Charles Soule Daredevil era, and you still see some crossover into the early Zdarsky era, which this book is a part of. I like seeing that. It adds a sense of just menace to the city and the sense of stakes that Matt is battling with, knowing that the person in the highest leadership in the city is out to get him actively. I think also the fact that he commits a murder incidentally or manslaughter, whatever it is at the beginning too, really knocks him off his game, knocks him off balance. He has a hard time still seeing himself as a hero, obviously, after this incident, unsure about his future, unsure about himself, and even the physical toll of surviving all of these accidents and injuries prior to this run. You just see him way below peak performance, peak form, and for an already troubled and flawed character, we just get to really see a lot of inner and outer conflicts that ensue throughout this early Zdarsky run. And I think it makes for great storytelling, great reading, especially in the hands of such incredible storytellers between the writer and artist on this book. I think particularly after finishing Chip Zdarsky's Howard the Duck run, I'm really just awed at this comic book writer's range to have a kind of hijinks, lighter-hearted humor comic juxtaposed with this kind of grim, dark, gritty crime drama comic. I really just see the strength of this writer who excellently executed both of those titles. If you haven't started Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil run, what are you waiting for? Go out, check it out, find it physical copy, find it digital, but go ahead, do yourself a favor and check it out. And let me know if you've already read it in the comments below. I love to hear from fellow Daredevil fans or people just stopping by. And now that we've finished up the extras at the back of this book, let's go ahead and give this a grade. It shouldn't come as a surprise, after successfully relaunching the character yet again with a new creative team, that Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky Hardcover Volume 1 earns an A- from the Comic Book Report. This volume's incredible artwork and immediate sense of stakes and gravity between a manslaughter situation, the rule of Mayor Fisk still in office, and Daredevil still trying to recover from some grievous accidents. The conflicts have almost never been higher for our favorite Hornhead. And while the first story arc, I believe, is stronger all around than the second present in this collection, I still think this oversized hardcover edition is a love letter to comic book fans and a gorgeous edition to have on your shelves. Please go ahead and check out Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky. And thank you so much for watching the Comic Book Report. Until next time, please don't forget to leave a like, a comment, or check out some of my other videos. Thanks again, and have a good one.